We'll bring Tim in. Tim is waiting in the wings. So, Mr. Tim Barford, hello there, young man.
Hi, Tim.
Hi, Tim.
Oh, yes.
Is that your dressing gown you're wearing there, Tim?
No, this is indeed a very warm, could be dressing gown. It's in fact a hemp coat, so I thought I'd wear it.
Excellent.
That's a hemp
Very
coat.
dapper, very dapper, Tim.
And there's a story to that, actually, because it's 30 years ago this very week that my colleague and I set off to go and visit a farm in Hungary, which is where this actually comes from. This is a Hungarian hemp, so it's grown in Europe, Hungary, and of course 30 years ago when we started our hemp company, it's very much solutions based. It was, an answer to a lot of problems that we saw. So we drove out to Hungary, and me and my pal, we set off, and we got as far as Amsterdam to refuel and restock, and we ran into two things. One was about flu, and the other one was a blizzard. So we got sort of grounded there for about a week. We never got any further, and it was before the days of the internet, so you couldn't really go and look all this stuff up. You had to just basically go out there, and so that was the early days. And this beautiful coat, which actually come from a couple of years later, same time of year, which is the VegfestUK in Germany, and in the mid-90s. There was a huge growth of hemp. I remember in the VegfestUK, which is a big trade fair which is held in Frankfurt every year in February generally, there was something like 60 hemp companies from across the world, including a number from USA and Canada, and a number from Hungary, Romania, and also the Netherlands. There was, Holland had quite a big hemp thing. And there was a couple of people, Eby and Che. Eby is dead now. Eby, who they used to own a vegan, nearly vegan, pretty much plant-based Whole Foods distribution in Manchester in the 80s, and they sold that, and they started this hemp company and really went about it seriously, and then started growing hemp in the UK. So it's quite a history, actually. It's sort of 30 years ago. It's all the official secrets at the time.
Well, we've got a number of hemp-related questions for you, Tim.
Yeah.
First of all, have a quick look at. Our guest has gone. He's left us.
Are all your clothes hemp, Tim, that you're wearing?
You what?
Are all your clothes hemp that you've got on?
What else have I had? Well, interestingly,
Your pants aren't hemp, are they?
I haven't got anything else that I'm wearing, but I wear hemp shoes. I used to wear hemp boxes in the 80s, but they weren't actually vegan, I found out later, in the 90s actually. I'll tell you what I do like. Now, this is, you mentioned several times already about not, buying stuff that lasts, and you don't buy, you don't, basically reuse. And this is 20 years that I've had this bag, and hemp is a really strong material, and you can see there's a little bit of wear and tear on it, but I mean, this is a tough material. If it's put together right and stitched right, you're talking about, textile especially, it lasts a long time. So it really is.
Well, hold that thought about it being strong, because I'm going to show you a few seconds of this. See if you've ever seen this, Tim.
You want to try? It's not made out of marijuana. It's made out of cannabis hemp. You can smoke all the cannabis hemp you could possibly want. You won't.
So that is a. Let me check that back out again. That's a car made out of hemp. Of course, there's a famous one from the Henry Ford factory, which you can see on YouTube, where they attack it with a sledgehammer, and it doesn't think. There's also something called hempcrete, which is a concrete made out of hemp. So, yeah. So in terms of its versatility, we're kind of tying hemp and talking about palm oil as well. I think I asked you this question about 3 years ago, I think, Tim. So I think I might know the answer, but could you use hemp to replace palm oil?
Well, I mean, hemp. Yeah, I mean, hemp. I don't know about replace. And palm oil. You have to remember that palm oil is a reason why it's very popular. It's got a lot of multiple uses, and it's particularly good for food. Things like burgers and such. Like I know when the fries people tried to take palm oil out of their burgers, nobody bought their burgers. And they put palm oil back in, and everybody bought their burgers again. It is a really useful product, palm oil, and the yields are really good. You have to remember with palm oil that the yields are generally times bigger than similar oils. One of the issues with hemp is that it is very volatile. So all oils have a different temperature and volatility. Coconut oil is very stable, very resistant to damage, to heat. Can go up to quite high temperatures with coconut oil. But same with palm oil. But with hemp oil, it's very volatile. So, you're talking less than 100 degrees. Whereas with coconut oil, probably 160 degrees. So you can do all sorts of things with some oils, like bake them, cook with them without destroying their molecular makeup. But you can, with hemp, unfortunately, one of the drawbacks is for the nutrition side, it's very, very, very good, but it's very volatile. So it's not easy to use in the nutrition sense beyond, things like hemp seed, hemp protein powder have a reasonably good shelf life. Hemp milk, even if you make it fresh, it won't last, and keep it in the refrigerator, it won't last more than 24 hours before it's going off. So something like oat milk in the UK is a lot more viable as a plant-based milk. But
Ronnie's got some news about hemp milk, haven't you, Ronnie?
Yeah, there was an article in the Independent. It's certainly on the Independent website today. Whether it's in the printed edition today, I'm not sure. Where they talk about the environmental impact of various plant milks, and they've come to the conclusion that hemp milk is actually the best in terms of the environment, for various reasons. Hemp milk is best, and oat milk is second best.
Yeah. You can't grow hemp seed everywhere in the UK. That's where you had to box clever. So go on, I interrupted you then.
No. I mean that's basically. I mean it goes into kind of more details about the reasons why it's best, because some plant milks aren't particularly great. Like for instance, almond milk isn't particularly environmentally friendly.
Hemp is fabulous for multiple reasons. So mainly because you don't need pesticides, you don't need fertilizers. So it self-pesticides and self-fertilizes itself. And it got very deep roots, and it binds the soil, it also aerates the soil. So it's just a fabulous crop to keep growing and keep growing. It gives back to the land. And there's other great uses about it. I mean, it grows very quickly. It grows pretty much anywhere. But in the UK, you can't grow hemp seed so well in the north of England. So, hemp seed will grow well in the south of England. The climate is just about right for hemp seed nutrition. But what you can grow in the north of England is, of course, you can grow hemp herds very successfully, which is obviously a different strain from growing seed, which is a little bit more of an exact nutritional and harvesting. It's a food. But with hemp herd, you can process the herd with the same environmental benefits of the crop into plastics, into fuels, into, Roger, as you mentioned, hempcrete, which is a form of building materials. And not only it's a good crop, but it's also environmentally, but it's also lasts a long time. So once you're talking hemp clothes or hemp building materials, these hemp building is just touching the surface. But what I'd love to see is a development really for biomass, so that you can create energy and you can also create plastics. And that's the big untapped areas that hemp effectively, with the right investment, this is the answer why I've got hope for this, is because of the right investment. We could see in the right infrastructure, which for instance is now happening in the UK with oat milk. We're seeing the fledgling oat industry really beginning to grow now. It's the investment's going in. It wasn't going in 30 years ago. And if we saw more investment and more subsidies, I think we've got the demand already and the growth in plant-based diets. This is why veganuary is so important, because it's really increasing the amount of plant-based options from a consumer level. And that makes it easier for the infrastructure and investment to come in to support the growth of truly sustainable, environmentally friendly businesses.
Tim, what you're saying raises a question in my mind, and I'm wondering about the politics of this, because, okay, so hemp is not as versatile as palm oil, but it is very versatile and it can be used in all kinds of things. Like you can make structures from it, and oil and petrol and hempcrete and all that kind of stuff. As Jennifer says here on the picture on the screen there, hemp clothing seems to be very expensive. So how come this very useful thing is very underdeveloped? Is this politics or what?
No, well, it's interesting you mention that, because I know we've talked about Conservative Party and such like, and Ronnie, I know you are staunch anti-Tory, vehemently anti-Tory.
No,
I don't know about that.
Where'd you get that idea from?
Yeah, I don't know where you came.
I don't know, but I might get it. But I would imagine we've all got generally left-leaning. It's important to remember actually that the Conservative government who changed the law in 1993 to make the growing of hemp, which had been outlawed in the UK since the 1800s, when my great-great-great-grandfather had a hemp rope-making business, out of interest. And the Conservative government changed the law in 1993 to allow subsidies for the growing of industrial hemp. And although you had to apply for a license from the Home Office, and I think you still do, there's various criteria you had to meet. Nevertheless, suddenly, in 1993, not only could you get a license to grow industrial hemp, but you could also get a subsidy, which I remember back in 1993 was £650 a hectare to grow industrial hemp, which was quite a sizable subsidy. And that was actually under the Conservative government, strangely, because I can't remember anything else of benefit that happened. But strangely, this law changed, and suddenly we had, and I remember my friend up the road in Bristol, who had inherited his mum and dad's, what was a dairy farm, got a license and was growing a couple of acres and 3 acres of hemp as a project, as a trial project, to see if he could, But of course, 30 years ago, there wasn't really the infrastructure, there wasn't even the market or demand. But then that changed, and people like Good Hemp started growing a lot of hemp for oil and seed in Dorset, and suddenly farmers in Dorset could basically grow 10, 20, 30 hectares of hemp and sell it to somebody up the road who put it into oil or into seed or into protein powder or into, importantly, hemp milk in a Tetra Pak and then out to the supermarkets. And of course, that operation is still thriving. So what we need to see is more operations of that nature. And the more you see, the price will come down because everybody will be doing it. And that's what we're hoping to see with the oat milk. Is that, and what we really need, and we know this, and this is politics, and now is a great time to push for this. that is subsidies for plant-based options. And we really need, and this is Ronnie, where I really support, again, the Green Party initiatives to really drive any initiatives that are driving the link between animal agriculture and environmental damage. This is a huge push we need to make, as well as putting a case for animal rights. And obviously being on the animal rights show, it's important to remember. And I think somebody asked, can we do this? The answer is yes, we can really push this through. We need to start working a little bit more, I think, as a team, like the Nationals could be filling in the gaps for veganuary. Veganuary is kicking in the door for plant-based diets for a lot of people. The Nationals could be working closely together with the grassroots and the local groups to really get behind veganuary, not only next year during it, but before it. Get people to sign up, get people to do it, and then follow it through. And we could really fill in the gaps about what's happening to animals in laboratories, what's happening to marine animals and seas and oceans, what's happening to animals being used for entertainment. And we could really fill in those gaps that veganuary leaves and get behind this. And yes, it does mean Conservative Party MPs getting on board. And I asked Kerry McCarthy this, our Labour MP. Kerry was good enough to come on our show last week. A very busy person. Kerry has been Labour MP for Bristol East for 15, 16 years now, vegan for 25 years. And Kerry was, Kerry says there's 7 vegan MPs now at Parliament. When she started, she was the only one. Now there's 7. And she takes a little bit of credit for that. But I asked her specifically about the Conservative Party initiative to get on a plant-based diet through veganuary. And yeah, understandably, she was a little bit like, we'll see, we will see. We don't generally trust that much that comes out of any of these people's mouths, but we'll see. But in principle, yes, she really supports that because she recognises the need really for all of us now, from a climate change perspective. Never mind, I say never mind, I don't mean that literally, but never mind the animal rights perspective for now. The environment perspective is the huge tsunami that's hanging over us and already hurting billions of living beings. And we do have time to address it, but I do believe it will really take, a real hands-on team effort, not only from the UK where we are, but globally. That's the big challenge. How do we get behind a whole initiative in the UK with all the division that we've got? How do we get over that? How do we find ways through that? And how do we go global? And we haven't got long to find out the answers.
So, Tim, I'm going to give you a chance to make a final kind of advert for hemp, because Grumpy Vegan Grandad has joined us, and you've kind of dealt with this really. Essentially, Grumpy, what we've been saying really is that hemp is really, really useful, but it needs to be used differently in different parts of the country. It's not as flexible, unfortunately, as palm oil, which is sad. But it would, I suppose really, to kind of ask you a final question, Tim, hemp surely is a major part of the vegan future. Would you agree with that? Yeah.
It could be. It already is. Hemp is nutritionally made a big difference. The last 15 years, hemp has really come through. And in places like Canada, you've got major hemp farming industries, huge areas producing top quality hemp year after year. And this is just going to grow. So, all over the world, we've got places in China, we've got Central Europe, we've got Canada, we've got America, we've got big areas, we've got the UK, there's big hemp production in Spain. North Africa could be, it could go everywhere. It really could. But you know, what's going to hold it back? I don't know really. I don't know. Is it got an image issue? I see that some of the most successful people using hemp are sort of smuggling it into their snack bars, like the Human Food new snack bar, which is pretty big everywhere. It's actually hemp. It's a hemp-based, hemp seed, 10% dehulled hemp seed, but they don't mention that anywhere except in the ingredients. So it's an interesting one. But personally, I think, if we had a government that got right behind a UK hemp industry right now and really really give it a push, we would see a big explosion. Without that, it's going to be tough. And partly, Ronnie, you touched on it. What's the business? The business problem with this is that, I bought it 20 years ago.
It doesn't wear out. Yeah.
That's right. That's the environmental benefit is fabulous. The business aspect, it's like, how do you make a business out of a product that's so good that nobody wants to come back and from a business perspective, unfortunately, there's something that's going to work.
Well, there is this idea called
seeds. You buy some more shampoo when you've run out, or sunblock, or quick advert for the Yayo Hemp Body Care range.
Body buster.
Yayo.co.uk. Tom, just to do a bit of practice, it's Yayo.
Yayo, okay.
That's it. Well done.
Tom said that he was going to give us a live demonstration of application of Yayo cream.
Well, I have given a few hemp smoothie demos. The last one I did, though, I made a joke. I always used to make a joke about people in the front row not wearing white in case they got splashed by a smoothie demo. So you just put blueberries in, and then, of course, the last one I did literally forget to put the lid on. I turned it on and it went smash all over the people in the front row.
Something to remember you by, Tim.
So this guy sat through, he put his hand up at the end, he said, sorry, he said, is there any hemp in this? And I said, no, I forgot to put it. Start again. Well, deliver a mistake. Here it is. We'll start again.
Everybody ended up wearing hemp clothing without knowing it. So, so we're going to move on, Tim. So thanks very much for bringing your expertise to the show. And it's been great to hear about that, because something as useful as that, it seems a bit of a crying shame that it's not developed. And that's why I asked that question about how come something so useful is not developed. But
it has developed, but there's a long way to go still. So, those people who've developed it this far should get credit, especially people like Evie, who's dead now, gave everything to make that in the early days. And I know you're big on pioneers. That's why, it's important to remember the pioneers. And there's some very dedicated people who put a lot into this 30 years ago, who are sadly no longer with us, who I credit, certainly. I haven't forgotten.
Yeah, I'm big on pioneers. Funny enough, I was thinking that once we're all on the screen, we've probably got about 200 years of vegan experience on the screen right now. So, there you go. So Tim, thanks once more. We're going to say goodbye, and you take care, mate, and we'll see you again.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.